Hello everyone, it's me again, Kirsty, and in this video I'm setting up my bullet journal for May. I'm very grateful for all of your patience. It took me a bit longer to get this video out simply because April was quite hectic and May is very hectic as well. There will be lots and lots of things going on this month, so I can't promise that the video for June will be on time, but we will see. In any case, April was really lovely. I visited England with my husband and had some opportunity to brush up on my English again, which was really lovely. And apart from that, we also had a big family reunion. We always have that around the Easter time. So there was just lots of things going on in April. And don't get me wrong, I loved everything about it. It just took me a bit longer to make this video and to edit it and to do my voiceover and everything. But here we are. So for May, I decided to do a lavender theme, which certainly is a theme that has been done a million times by a million different bullet journalers out there. But I don't remember having it done myself at all in the past. So I thought it would be a cool month to do lavender as well. I also just came home from buying some flowers for my balcony, so this is very fitting to now talk about flowers. So for the cover spread that you see me create, I wanted to do a bit of a lavender field kind of thing and just drew out lots and lots of little blossoms down there with the very long leaves in between, and I drew everything out in pencil as I always do and then just traced it with a very thin fineliner. I think this is a 0.01 fineliner from Micron. I will link everything down in the description as always if you're interested in anything that I'm using. And yeah, as soon as I had drawn everything out, I've figured it's actually very similar to my eucalyptus theme that I did in September. I'm going to try and link it in the cards above if you're interested in seeing that one. Simply because the way I drew lavender is very similar to drawing eucalyptus in the sense that the very tiny blossoms of lavender look very similar to the form and the shape of the leaves of eucalyptus. So I basically followed, I think I saw a tutorial by Shada Campbell in the past, and she explains it really nicely that you always just bunch together 2 or 3 leaves or just 1 leaf at a time along the stem that you drew out first, and then they're all very circular shaped, and then you just, always group together 2 or 3 along the top of the stem, and yeah, that makes for a very lavender looking kind of blossom. All the way in between I just added all of these very thin leaves, and for my font I used one of my Tombow dual brush pens that was a little, I don't know why I didn't pick the very violet one, but the more pink one. Seeing it now, I feel like I could have used a more violet one, but oh well, you live and you learn, as I tend to say. Anyway, that was it for my cover spread. For my calendar spread, I did a bit of a different thing for the illustrations on the right-hand side that you're going to see me create in a minute. I started off with my May title that I drew out the exact same way as I did on the cover page, and again used a very simple brush lettering font with very thin upstrokes and then fat downstrokes, and tried to make the distance between each letter very far so that it looks very delicate and wispy. And then added my calendar that I always need to be very big so that I have enough space to actually write things down. As you may know, I speak German, and German words don't tend to be very short, so if I have some sort of appointment in a day, I want to be able to write at least 1 word in 1 row and like the time that is actually taking place, and I need a big calendar for that. And then on the right hand side I drew lavender again, but just very small jars full of little tiny bouquets, I would say, of lavender. And I got this idea from Kat's Planner here on YouTube. She did a whole theme with just this type of lavender drawings where she, just added a few little branches of lavender in one jar, and I really loved the look of that one. I don't think it matches the way I did it to my calendar that well as Kat's Planner did in her layouts, but I still enjoyed the idea. I wish I had done it a bit more similar to my cover spread, just because it would have tied in together a little more nicely. But I still think it looks very cute, and you just have lots and lots and lots of different jars and glasses with lavender inside. Now, I think you can see that whenever I do a bit of a close-up of what I'm actually drawing, you can see that I always start with the jar for a start, and then add a bunch of long strokes that I connect. I connect some of them to form leaves in the end, and then some I just leave empty and add the petals afterwards. Sometimes I did it the exact opposite way around, and I would start with the petals first and then add the stem after. This way the petals and the stem wouldn't overlap, because I knew where the petals already were, and then I could just add the stem bits wherever there weren't any blossoms. But, you know, whatever way works. And I didn't really bother if it did overlap, because it did look very, well, it's just drawn out. Just the way it is. Sometimes things don't look perfect, and that's just the way it's supposed to be. As Shader Campbell always says, flowers are definitely very perfectly imperfect. Now, color-wise, I used 4 Tombow dual brush pens to color these in, all of them, in all of my spreads. I always started with the darker shade. For the leaves, I always started with a dark green and then added a lighter green on top, so that it looks a bit more light and has a bit more structure to it, and then there's more color than just one. And for the little flowers, I did the exact same thing. So I always started at the very center of each little petal, started with the very dark violet, and then just added a very tiny tip of them to the center of each petal, and then added the lighter shade onto the rest of the petals, so that you have a bit of a gradient going on, and there's also a bit of shadow and depth to it. For my habits and sleep and mood tracker spread, I did the same thing as I did every month. I drew out my little calendars that I need for my habits. So each box just represents one habit that I want to track for the whole month. I completely forgot to add my headers. So you will never know what sort of habits I'm going to track this month. I'm very sorry. Yeah, for some reason I just didn't put the titles there. But I drew out complete boxes this time. Like usually I just have the header on top and then the little calendar on the bottom. I made them a whole box this time. I'm not too much of a fan of it, of how it turned out, but I guess it's fine. As you can see, like the header part is connected to the calendar on the bottom. I could just have left it out, but I don't know. I felt like doing it this way, this time around. On the left-hand side, and as you will see on the right-hand side, I just drew out a column of lavender that's just flying around in space, I guess. It's not on the ground or in a jar, but just there. And yeah, I tried to do a lot of close-ups so that you can see how I color them in and how I draw them out. So I hope my explanation as well as the picture helps you to know what I'm actually doing and how I drew them out. And I do think it looks kind of cute, even though they are not grounded and they're not somewhere in the earth, but just flying around. That's makes for a bit more of this delicate look that I was talking about. I also did the same lettering again with a very wispy kind of font. I then drew out the boxes that I need for my 2 trackers. As you may or may not already know, I always track my sleep with different bars. So for each night, I just indicate the time when I went to bed and then the time when I got up. And in the end, it just gives me some sort of bar graph. And for my mood, I also have, I just indicate my mood with a little dot in each line that represents one day. And add lines in between the moods that I have throughout the month. So in the end, I also have a little graph that shows me how I was doing each day this month. Yeah, this page is the one that I tend to use the most just because I like tracking things and it helps me to keep on top of the things that I want to do and the things I need to do daily, ideally, even if I don't manage. But it just makes me feel like I'm on top of everything, especially when there's times that are very stressful and there's a lot of things going on. I'm just very grateful to have these trackers to help me keep on top of things. On the right hand side, I also drew out these very flowy lavender blossoms, and this way I had a nice frame on the very left hand side and on the right hand side to tie the whole spread together and to make some sort of illustration on both sides. And yeah, I think it made for a nice frame. Speaking of frames, that is what I did for my notes spread this month. Again, I only did 2 different flowers of lavender, one on the left and one on the right side, and added a border around everything, or a frame, if you will. And yeah, I think you already saw me do that in the video a couple of times. I always use a checked piece of paper underneath so that I can draw straight lines even though I have a blank notebook without any dots. So this way I always know where I have to put everything. I also didn't do my regular font, which is something that I should know from previous setups. Usually I use the exact same font for every spread so that everything looks nice together. But anyway, I forgot it for this notes page this time, for whatever reason. I went back to my font for my weekly spread, as you can see. I also did my go-to layout that I use all the time. I did some minor changes like writing the days of the week a bit bigger and added a very tiny little bouquet of lavender on the right hand side, or right next to the title. The rest is the same as every month. On the left hand side I have my little mini calendar to indicate what week we are currently on. Below that a section for the things I need to get done this week and a section for things I want to remember for the week after that. And then this big section for every single day where I can single out things that need to get done on that specific day. And yeah, that is it for my monthly setup for May. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful to you, that it gave you some insights into my journal, and that it maybe still inspires you to do something lavender themed for May. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and subscribe and hit the bell if you want to be notified whenever I post a new video. If you're interested in instrumental violin music, please go ahead and check out my other channel that I'm going to link. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!